what was unlawful with the Oregon National Guard is unlawful with the California National Guard. The judge's order was not some minor procedural point for the president to work around like my 14-year-old does when he doesn't like my answers. We need leadership in this country that understands the power of bringing people together to solve our greatest challenges. But the president, right now, is persistent on acting like a door-to-door salesman and doesn't understand that when the court says no, the court means no.
I'll say it again. A federal district court, black robe, tyrannical tyrant doesn't have jurisdiction over the President of the United States. And if you continue to watch this video, you will hear the governor herself of Oregon admit that there's nothing she can do about it.
That is not an invocation for negotiation. The state of Oregon will absolutely not be a party to the president's attempt to normalize the use of the United States military in our American cities.
The president has control over the military, the National Guard, and the militia. Sorry.
All of us care about public safety, but you do that by working in partnership, and you do that by working in collaboration.
Just so you know, they all don't come from Mexico.
We do not use our United States military as a tool in political theater.
He's not using the military. He's using the Oregon and California National Guards members.
Right now, California will be added to the complaint, and a temporary restraining order will be filed here shortly. Those will become public very shortly. Our intent is to get in front of the judge again as quickly.
The Supreme Court has already ruled on this matter before, and the district court federal judge is out of jurisdiction.
Hopefully as soon as tomorrow, to provide clarification to the federal government that it doesn't matter whether you use the California National Guard or the Oregon National Guard, it is unlawful. The judge was incredibly clear that Portland, Oregon does not need the military to effectuate its safety. Finally, we ask as this case continues to progress through the court systems that everybody remains peaceful as they exercise their right to be heard in this process. With that, I will go ahead and turn this over to the governor.
Thank you, Attorney General Rayfield. Here we go. Thank you, Attorney General Rayfield, for your great work and your whole team of the Department of Justice. So, as the Attorney General mentioned last night, I received intelligence that 101 federalized California National Guard members arrived in Oregon by plane and were then sent to Camp Withicum. That's the facility operated by the Oregon Military Department. It is our understanding that there are an additional 99 California Guard members en route today. So assuming a total of 200 service members from the California National Guard will shortly completely be in the state of Oregon. However, my office has received no official notification or correspondence from the federal government regarding this action by the president. This action appears to be intentional to circumvent yesterday's ruling by a federal judge.
This is the part where she totally lies and then goes back and covers her tracks in the next statements. When asked by the reporter if there's anything she can do about it, and she admits no, there's nothing she can do about it or the district court.
This afternoon, I sent a message to Northern Command directing them to obey the October 4th court ruling from yesterday and take no further action regarding deploying troops in Oregon. I also directed that those troops that will be at Camp Withicum should be restricted to that facility, and that the California National Guard troops should be sent home as soon as possible. And I also want to say, as for our Oregon National Guard members, many of whom are still waiting at Camp Rylea, they are pawns in this situation, political pawns in this situation. And I would like to send our troops home to their families, to their jobs. But the United States government has filed a stay in the Ninth Circuit, as the Attorney General has mentioned, We, Attorney General is taking the lead to oppose that, and we're going to wait to hear how that concludes, maybe as early as tomorrow. It's important to remember that our Oregon National Guard members who are our neighbors have full-time jobs in our communities across Oregon. I want to make sure that they are safe. I would like to get them home to their families as soon as possible. We are waiting, however, on the action in court. The facts on the ground in Oregon haven't changed. There's no need for military intervention in Oregon. There's no insurrection in Portland. There's no threat to national security. Oregon is our home. It is not a military target. And Oregonians exercising their freedom of speech against unlawful actions by the Trump administration is their right and should be done so peacefully. I'm going to continue with my colleagues here to continue to keep the public apprised of what the situation is. And at the end of the day, I'm going to continue to uphold the law and the right to govern ourselves as Oregonians. And with that, Mayor Keith Wilson.
Good afternoon. I want to begin by thanking Governor Kotek and Attorney General Rayfield for standing with Portland and defending our shared values. I also want to recognize our state and city legal teams whose steadfast commitment to upholding the law has been essential throughout this process.
It means upholding the law and telling the protesters that, the rioters, they're not going to get arrested, and telling the police not to do anything about it.
Yesterday, a federal judge blocked the mobilization of Oregon National Guard troops, ruling the federal seizure unlawful and unjustified. The decision reaffirmed what we've long maintained: the federal government overstepped its authority. As the judge noted, we presented substantial evidence that the protests at the Portland ICE facility were neither significantly violent nor disruptive in the days and weeks leading up to the president's directive on September 27.
Violent, like assaulting the federal officers at the office of
Despite the court's ruling, the
Immigration.
federal government has activated California National Guard personnel under Title 10 to operate in Portland. This action circumvents the judge's decision and threatens to inflame a community that has remained peaceful. This is yet another unnecessary and inflammatory attempt by the president to deploy outside troops in Portland where no intervention is warranted. Our legal team is actively coordinating with our partners to pursue every lawful avenue to enforce the judge's order and protect Portlanders' rights. We will use every tool at our disposal to defend the Constitution and safeguard the rights of every resident. Portland remains firmly committed to protecting the right to protest, ensuring public safety, and I've said from the beginning, the number of federal troops needed or wanted in our city is 0. This is the latest move, and it is a clear example of a federal government undermining local governance, escalating conflict, and diverting attention from the real needs of our communities. I urge federal leadership to respect the court's judgment and immediately suspend any deployments that defy it. Portland will continue to defend the rule of law and the rights of our residents. Thank you.
Yeah, the needs. Which needs? The drug paraphernalias, the assistance with homeless drug use and all this? Which needs?
We will now open it to questions. So if you would like to ask a question, please use the raise hand function and share your full name and the outlet you are with. First up, I see Lisa Balick.
Yes, thank you. It's Lisa Balick, reporter at KOIN Channel 6. Question for you, Governor, perhaps the mayor as well. If the California National Guard deploys outside ICE tonight, is there any action you can take to make them leave?
Here's the part where she says, hell no, we can't make them leave because we can't tell the President of the United States what to do. Are you listening or are you not?
We have, Lisa, thank you for the question. We have no information about their whereabouts or whether or not they will actually be at the ICE facility tonight. My message to Northern Command is that the troops should stay at Camp Withicum and be prepared to return back to California. I believe that the court order still applies to them. Of course, we will know more pending the discussion at the Ninth Circuit. And with the local judge as well, saying this should have been assumed as well. But hopefully we'll have more information tomorrow on that.
But there's no
Yeah,
action you can take to make them leave if they appear?
Not legally at the moment, no.
Told you. No. Nothing she can do.
The next question, Antonio Sanchez.
Hey there, I'm Antonio Sanchez. I'm with Noticias Noroeste. As the only Spanish language newscast in Oregon, the immigrant community has expressed to us they feel caught in the crossfire. They feel these protesters are making things worse for them.
Yeah, it's like, holy shit, Pendejo. Stop rocking the damn boat, man. You're drawing them in here.
Helping their cause, they say. How do we make them understand their tactics are affecting the immigrant community more so than helping as to what they believe? And also, do we expect these guardsmen to enforce immigration laws?
Thank you for the question. We have no information with regard to what the mission is for the California National Guard members, so I have no answer to that question. And I also want to say that the fear and anxiety in the immigrant community is substantial, and all of us on this call recognize that. And I believe there should be a way for us to all peacefully demonstrate our values, contrary to what the Trump administration is doing around a whole host of issues, including immigration enforcement. But our message, my message is, let's be peaceful. Let's maintain our right to free speech, but not create a situation that is unlawful, because people will be held accountable if that happens.
Support what the governor said. In America, we don't use our military to enforce the laws of our states, and we don't use the military to enforce the laws of the United States. And that is why you have the Posse Comitatus Act, which actually prevents them from doing so under those circumstances. So I would not expect, and I would hope, that the president would not choose to order his troops to violate the Posse Comitatus Act. If that did happen, we would again be back in front of the court, and we'll be monitoring to make sure that they are following the law here in Oregon and the laws of this country.
Next, we have Alex Baumhart.
Hey y'all, Alex from the Oregon Capitol Chronicle, excuse me. I'm wondering, Mayor Wilson, you might be the best to answer this. Last night, the federal agents at the ICE facility pushed way further into the city property than they had before. They used way more chemical munitions, arguably on far fewer people than had been there even a week ago. It was dispiriting to hear the Portland Police Bureau on bikes around the corner say, we can't do anything, and that we had a PIO at PPB say, we have not discussed jurisdiction with the federal officers, i.e., why did they do nothing when the feds pushed a full block down the street? Is there anything that you can tell the public about what PPB can and cannot do when it comes to public safety, especially when they're being antagonized by federal officers with chemical munitions and guns?
Yeah, we saw events last night that went far beyond the pale of what we've seen in the past. We see Federal Protective Service that's really trying to inflame the situation, not put it down, and certainly not just protect property. A couple of things. We saw unjustified uses of force. We saw shoving peaceful veterans and elderly people to the ground. Indiscriminate use of impact munitions to disperse an otherwise peaceful crowd. Indiscriminately discharging pepper spray. We saw a sniper on the roof of the ICE facility. This is not what we typically look at in crowd control or peaceful protests. This is an aggressive approach trying to inflame a situation that has otherwise been peaceful. As far as tactics and our processes, those things I just read to you are items that we're lodging with the Civil Rights Department for the Department of Justice. We are reaching out to them, explaining to them we need them to follow their code of conduct, including integrity and honor, and we're expecting them to operate with a high degree of standards and operations that our Portland Police Bureau has and will continue to do. As far as direct control over that, we don't have direct control over the FPS, but we can explain that we need them to operate with the same sort of high-performing organization that we're trying to show to the city as well.
And Alex, I would just add, I would like they would follow state law. We've worked really hard in the state of Oregon from 2020 on to have better crowd control techniques. There are clear laws of when you can be using tear gas, for example. We're not following any of those. We're also hearing that they're having social media influencers on the rooftop filming. They are clearly trying to antagonize the crowds. They are antagonizing folks who are there to lawfully demonstrate, and that's got to stop. I think they're creating a public health emergency with the use of the tear gas in their residential areas, completely outside of state law. And I appreciate that the mayor is going to pursue whatever avenues we have for them to, get back in line with what is practice here in the state of Oregon.
So we can expect a civil rights lawsuit against the federal police, DHS, and ICE for what they've done.
I wouldn't say you can expect it, but we are certainly sending them notices to what we're seeing. The key point here, and the point I spoke to the chief and several other individuals in the meeting today, is that criminal activity is criminal activity. Excessive force, no matter who you are, nobody's immune. The Portland Police is not immune. The Federal Protective Services, ATF, Customs Border Patrol. If we see the law being broken, we're going to lodge the complaint. And if a complaint or somebody does file it, we will support that. There's no one immune. And I just want to make sure that the federal government knows that they are not immune from the criminal laws. Nobody's above the law.
All right, the next question, Hillary Borid.
Hi, Governor, at this point, are you in control of the Oregon National Guard fully again?
Well, my understanding, thank you for the question, Hillary, under the court ruling yesterday with the temporary restraining order, technically, yes, the Oregon National Guard is under my command. I didn't have complete information until this morning, but now with the action by the federal government to challenge that temporary restraining order, I am on hold to see how that plays out. My goal is to get them back to their homes and their jobs as soon as possible.
Next we have Jack Brook.
Hi, yes, Jack Brook with AP. Just wanted to clarify on the number of National Guard being sent to Oregon. We've heard 300 from Governor Newsom and the Pentagon said 200. Could you clarify?
Again, I have no official notice. This is only based on intel that we have received. My understanding is with the second group of California National Guard members coming, we'll be at 200. I'm not sure where the 300 came from. Only that there were, as of yesterday, 300 federalized California National Guard, 200 of which are now being sent to Oregon.
Thank you.
Next hand is Amanda Arden.
Yeah, thank you. This is Amanda Arden with CBS News. First question, I heard last week with the federalization of the Oregon National Guard that the 200 would be identified and then they'd have 3 to 5 days of training before they were deployed to Portland. Is that timing similar with these National Guard members from California, or will this process move faster since they're already federalized?
It could move faster. Again, no specific mission information other than they are federalized and probably have received some training. So they've been on the ground in California for several months now. So perhaps they will be in a different timeline. However, we're in the court tomorrow. Hopefully what the court said yesterday will stay tomorrow. So we'll see what happens.
All right, next question is from John Adams.
Hi, John Adams, KGW News in Portland. For Attorney General Rayfield, just again, can kind of walk us through the timeline of what we might see when this goes before a judge tomorrow. If we do happen to see California National Guard troops maybe around the ICE facility in Portland tonight, what then happens when this goes before a judge tomorrow? If the judge rules in the state of Oregon's favor, would they then have to pull back?
Yeah, and let's walk back from starting yesterday. So at 4:30, we get the ruling that effectively puts the National Guard back under the governor's control, ruling that the president did not have the authority to federalize the National Guard. Shortly thereafter, we did get notice that the federal government was going to seek a stay of that ruling, which effectively would pause the lower court's ruling. Today, they made the formal application to do so. Within roughly a half an hour, the Oregon Department of Justice, around 2:30 today, filed a response to that saying that they are not entitled to a stay of the order. And again, this is focusing specifically on the Oregon National Guard. That is one element of this case. That we hope to have, and the federal government is asked to get a ruling by tomorrow on that motion. And the hope is that we'll have a little bit of finality on that within the next 24 hours for the governor so that she can operate as she needs to for the state. The second component of this is on the California National Guard. And again, that was yesterday evening. Governor receives notice. We receive notice. Our lawyers and staff get to work to making sure that we file, a second temporary restraining order today. And that also added California to the complaint to do so because it was the California National Guard. Separate judge, not the Ninth Circuit, but Judge Emmergood, again, we're seeking to get in front of her tomorrow as well to get clarification on that. Now, just like the initial complaint that was filed, it took roughly a week to get a response. So it's going to be up to the judge, how much information, research she needs to be able to make an informed ruling before she rules on that. The hope, again, and what we've tried to operate here in Oregon with the governor and the mayor's partnership is that we wanted to be as quick as possible, in the courts as quick as possible, before people were deployed on the ground. Now, we can only move as fast as we can move. The president is trying to, out-hustle us in this process. And so we're trying, again, to get in front of a court to prevent this because we truly believe, all of us, that the presence of the United States military in Portland is only going to serve to inflame the situation.
All right, next, Alex Baumhart again.
Yeah, obviously, we're towing into territory that's way beyond constitutional law, and I'm wondering, sort of as a larger dragnet with other maybe Democratic leaders in other states or even Republicans, at this point, can you give us a sense of the conversations you're having more broadly nationally about this particular time and temperature and what all of this means? This is obviously far greater than an Oregon problem.
Well, we're in a difficult moment. Oh, go ahead, Mr. Trajan.
Yeah, and I think we all have different lanes that we operate in. It's been very interesting to talk with the governor, to talk with the mayor about some of the conversations that we're having at the different levels of government. So I'll talk about it from being amongst Democratic attorneys general and our conversations across the state. I think there's some pretty significant patterns that this president is manifesting. You first saw it attacking the independent judiciary. He attacked his own appointed judge yesterday when he got the ruling. He picks the referees to the game and then he starts complaining about the game. So he has a problem with the independent judiciary. That is a hallmark of our democracy. He starts attacking the press and applying pressure to the free press in our country, another pillar of our democracy. He's outwardly talking about rigging our elections through gerrymandering to maintain control in Congress because he's so fearful of the midterm elections. And now he is normalizing the use of the military across our country in multiple states. And again, just yesterday, he's mobilizing in Illinois. And so as attorneys general, these are things that we're actively talking about, actively preparing. There's a reason we were able to get into court so darn fast on this. That's because we were prepared. That's because we knew that at some point this president had been talking about this and was going to be ready. The governor had been in partnership with us and we had been in close collaboration. And so that was really what allowed us to be ready for this moment. I do expect further pressure points as they stretch the bounds of our democracy will continue throughout the next 3 years. But I think it's important and incumbent upon all of us to realize that we just can't become complacent as these attacks to our democracy continue to happen. We cannot be the frog in boiling water. And that's why these cases are so darn important that we stand up for these foundational issues.
I agree with everything that the Attorney General just said. You know, I've been speaking to other governors. I was on the phone this morning with Governor Pritzker. I've been communicating with Governor Newsom. We are all concerned what the role of governors are, what their role is in commanders-in-chief for the National Guard. But let's go to earlier last week. The President of the United States spoke to hundreds of generals, saying that we need to be able training our military in the streets of American cities. We cannot normalize the approach he is taking with the military in our own country. It's not warranted. It is unlawful. It is un-American. Local law enforcement has a duty and a responsibility and the skills to manage their local situation. This is a states' rights issue. This is a democratic institution issue. And I think we have to take our president at face value when he says he believes this is necessary. And Oregonians adamantly disagree.
All right, we've got 3 more hands, and these will be our final questions. So Anna Griffin, first you.
Hi, folks. This is Anna Griffin with the New York Times. On that point of the president taking him at face value, his depiction of what is going on in Portland is very different than what those of us here are seeing. Do you have a sense of where he is getting his information? And have Portland police out there seen the government doing its own taping?
Legally, I can tell you one of the most compelling things as you listen into the court hearings is when attorneys for the federal government talk to a federal judge and cite Truth Social as facts in a courtroom. I think you have this opinion, and I think that we've all formed this opinion of our president, where he gathers his facts off of social media gossip, social media batter, social media chat. And that is how he is seeing the world. And I think the governor can talk to, she had conversations about the reality on the ground. That's why the court was so darn important, is that we could present real facts to a neutral arbiter about what is going on the ground. And it doesn't have to become politicized in these social media channels. But that's honestly where we see him, kind of trying to gather his facts.
But we know the facts are different on the ground. And what you saw, and they failed to make their case on Friday that there was an actual problem that warranted this. And the truth and facts do have to matter here. And it is, I kind of don't even care at this point where he's getting his information, because he is intentionally disregarding the facts on the ground from the people who know what is happening, from the mayor to myself, to the attorney general, to the chief of police, who talks about any protests or demonstrations are confined to a 1-block radius in the city of Portland. There's no connection between the truth and what the president is saying in terms of what is happening on the ground in Portland.
Jessica Levinson.
Hi, I am a legal contributor for CBS News and a law professor, and I was hoping you could talk to me about your specific response to what I think will be the Trump administration's argument that once they federalize the National Guard in one state, then that National Guard is essentially under their chain of command, and they can decide to send it to another state. Or related to that, essentially, what's the best, if there are any, cases to support the idea that if a district court judge says you don't have the factual predicate necessary to invoke 12406 and federalize the National Guard in Oregon, are there cases that then support, and therefore you can't use National Guard that's federalized in another state and send that into Oregon?
Mayor Wilson, do you want to answer that one? Just kidding. I was just playing with you. The truth of this, that's actually an absolutely wonderful and astute question. And we do expect them to make that argument tomorrow in front of a judge. The reality is that there is a specific word within the statute that says it has to be necessary, and and I believe it is the amounts necessary, effectively proportional. So the fact that if you are moving the National Guard from California to Oregon, they are no longer necessary. coming into Oregon. I think common sense really dictates the outcome under these circumstances. So if there is a set of facts in California that necessitate federalizing the National Guard against the governor's will, you can't pick those National Guard up and ship them overseas to some other event, right? There are limiting factors, and we believe that the word necessary, as you'll see within the statute, is that limiting factor. Again, all kind of comes back to common sense.
All right, and the final question, Heather Roberts.
Thank you. Heather Roberts with KXL News Portland. Governor Kotek, you mentioned speaking with Governor Newsom. In a statement from Governor Newsom, he said that his state would be suing the Trump administration over the deployment of his troops to Oregon. Have you talked today? Have you talked since this action was taken? And if so, how did that conversation go?
We've just been exchanging voicemails, but I know our teams have been working on that, and maybe the Attorney General can address that because I know our team and his teams have been working on this.
Yeah, and just like the governor's teams have been working with our office is, and Governor Newsom's office, our office has been working with Attorney General Bonta's office down in California. That is why our complaint that is currently filed in Portland is going to be amended, which will add California as a complainant, and you'll see that it may already be done right now. Following that action where we add California as a complainant, we will then file the temporary restraining order, which is happening right now as we speak. I have not gotten any update if it is actually filed, but it will be very shortly if it isn't already.
So just for clarification, that's this. So when Governor Newsom says he's suing the Trump administration, he means through this Oregon lawsuit, not a separate suit, as far as you know.
Well, we all know how California is. They always follow Oregon's lead, as they should. And so, yes, and just aside, California will be joining our lawsuit.
Thank you.
All right, so we will turn it back to the three of you for any closing comments.
And I would just say again, I really appreciate the staff and the attorneys of the Department of Justice who have been working nonstop over this past week. I truly appreciate the collaboration between the governor's office, the mayor's office, and our office. It's meaningful to have such partnerships when our communities are being pushed to be divided. And I think right now, as we see and have differences in our community, I think it's really important to note that we're stronger together. And we should not allow the president to continue to divide our communities. And I don't care whether you're a Republican, a Democrat, or non-affiliated in this world. We can disagree with these things. We can peacefully protest, and we can disagree with each other respectfully. And that's how we should operate as Oregonians, and I know that's who we are as Oregonians.
And I just want to say to all the Oregonians who are thinking and are worried, let's stay calm, let us stay strong together. And let's continue to advocate for what we believe in lawfully and peacefully. And I would also say, and I appreciate the press being here today to follow this issue, let's take a hard look at what the federal officials are doing at the ICE facility. They're not following state law when it comes to control of public events and crowds. They're creating a nuisance. They're creating, I think, a public health emergency. They are stoking a situation so they can somehow make a claim to the president that this thing is out of control. The fact that they have any influencers standing on a rooftop, taking videos from what we understand, please ask them hard questions. Why do they think that's okay? Why do they think it's okay to antagonize folks who are just exercising their free speech rights? So I would just ask that you maybe direct some questions to them. Thank you.
Yeah. And I'll finish by saying it is just another beautiful day in Portland. We're outside enjoying the weather, and we should be, and we should not be inside having this conversation right now. And I just want to let everybody know I'm so disappointed that we've had to spend our valuable time on this matter. We have so many hard and important challenges in Portland and in Oregon and in the United States. And this is a situation that we didn't ask for. It certainly wasn't invited. And we don't want to be here having this conversation. Yesterday, piece one, and let me just yesterday, just put a finer point on it. Yesterday, peace won and facts mattered. And that's what our Constitution and rule of law really is focused on delivering. And we're here again. It's like Groundhog Day. And I am sure that Attorney General and the governor and the state of Oregon will prevail again. So thank you for this opportunity.
And I would just add, we had hundreds of Oregonians and visitors running the Portland Marathon today.
Yeah.
26 miles through the streets of Portland. Clearly not a war zone.
Thank you all.
Thanks for being here, everybody.
Thank you.